Yes, good morning. Today is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We're going to be in St. John chapter 11, and it's going to go from 1 to 25. And I hope you'll be so blessed with this word. I know it blessed me as I was reading it, and it gave me such a beautiful picture of the love of Jesus and how we can depend on Him, not just for tomorrow, but today. And it starts off with, now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary, and her sister Martha. And it was that Martha which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. And therefore his sister sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. Now Martha and Mary and Lazarus were beautiful friends of Jesus. He loved them so much. You can see it in the Word. And he was a very frequent visitor every time he came around there to be with them, to eat with them. And you could read it in the different chapters in the Word, in the Bible. And we see that they're very upset that their brother's sick. He's dying. And they're calling for Jesus to come. And we thank God that we call sometimes when we're very ill and we need a doctor. We'll run to the emergency room, or we'll call, and we want to be attended to immediately because maybe we have something so severe that it could cause death. But we see that we don't have to be like that with Jesus, and we're going to see that in the Word. We can live in that peace and comfort and love, that knowing that He loves us and that no matter where He's at, we're in His hands. We don't have to worry about all of these things. I mean, I'm not saying you go to the doctor, you go and you do whatever the doctor tells you. But we see that we don't have to fret to the point where, oh, if I don't get there, I could die. And we see here, as it says, and when Jesus heard that, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. And it also says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. He did love them. He loved them. They were not only his children, but his friends. And he visited them, as I said, frequently. But he says, this sickness is not unto death. No, nothing. Our sicknesses are not unto death, because we will live forever with the Lord. We shall never die. And it says, but it's for the glory of God. God is going to teach a lesson here, how to depend on Him more and more, as we start to learn about Him and read His Word and dig into the depths of His Word. And it says, and when he had heard that, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. Look at that. Jesus didn't grab everything and say to the disciples, let's go. Lazarus sick. We got to get to him before he dies. He actually waited. It says he abode 2 more days. He actually waited. We would think, gee, if that was just the humanly thing, we'd say, wow, that's not good. Why would he do that? But he did it for a reason and a purpose, and we will see. And it says, then after that saith he to his disciples, let us go unto Judea again. And his disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again? And Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in a day? If any man walks in the day, he stumbles not, because he sees the light of this world. But if a man walks in night, he stumbles, because there is no light in him. When we have the light of the Lord in us, we never stumble. Jesus is that light that shined out of darkness, shines in our heart to give us the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. And we thank the Lord that when we walk in the day, we walk in the light of God. We don't stumble. But when we don't know the Lord and we're not trusting God, we're walking in the night, and that's when we do stumble. Like Peter, when he stopped trusting Jesus, walking on that water, he started to sink. But we thank God that that beautiful Savior just picked him right up out of that world, out of those waves, those angry waves. Out of this world, the Lord picks us up when we need him. Oh Lord, help us to understand how beautiful you are and how close you really are to us each and every day. And it says, these things said he, and after that he saith unto them, our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. I go that they may awake him out of sleep. And that's what our graves should say. All of our graves that are believers should say, she is just sleeping. She is just sleeping. She is not dead. And it says, then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleeps, he shall do well. So the disciples, now that word in sleep, and when you look it up in the Greek, means dead. And the disciples really thought Jesus was saying that he was just sleeping. And they're saying, well, that's good. Let him rest. And maybe that'll make him, good. That's good that he's sleeping. However, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep. And then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. He had to tell them what patience the Lord had. Lazarus is dead. He's dead in the physical sense that he's dead here on this earth, dead to the earth. And it tells us, then Jesus said unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. So Jesus is saying, there's a lesson that's going to be learned here. And I'm glad that we waited, because you're going to see what happens with Lazarus. And then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, let us go also, that we may die with him. Look at the disciples, their love for one another. Jesus said, you'll know us by our love for one another. Thomas is so upset that he hears that he's dead, that Lazarus is dead, his friend. He said, oh, let us go die with him. And then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already, making sure. So this story would see that, well, he wasn't really dead. It was only a day, and he might have still been alive. No, 4 days he was dead in that grave. And then when Jesus came, he found he had lain in the grave 4 days already. And now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. And many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. So all the people are gathered here. Jesus knew there'd be a big gathering for Mary and Martha because their brother died. They were comforting them. Mary and Martha were probably such beautiful people of God that everybody wanted to come and comfort them. And it says, and then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, and here's the key to this whole word here. Martha said unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. She says, but I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it to thee. So look at what Martha is saying. And Jesus saith unto her, thy brother shall rise again. And Martha said unto him, know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. So Martha is saying to Jesus, and this is so, you have to get this. It's so beautiful that Martha is saying that if he wouldn't have died, if my brother wouldn't have died if you would have been there. But Jesus is here now and forever. He's here in the present. He's always here in the present. He's not a long way off. And she's saying, Martha was saying, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And what she was talking about? Mary, she knew her scriptures. And she was really saying with Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians says, but I would not have you be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which sleep, that you sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will bring with him. For we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, and with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air. So shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. So Martha knew that there was going to be a resurrection. And she's saying, I know this, Lord. I know my brother's dead. And I know that he's going to rise again in that beautiful resurrection with thousands and millions of people and rise. But Jesus is saying something else we have to understand when he's telling us. This is such a beautiful lesson that the Lord, what does the Lord say then? He says, and Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believeth thou this? Jesus was telling me, Martha, Martha, I am the resurrection. I am. You're looking at him. I don't pray because what does she say here? But I know that even whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it to thee. He is God. He has the power of life within himself to do anything at that moment. It doesn't make any difference if he was far, close, wherever. He is the resurrection. And he can raise up any situation at any time, here and now. At this time, he was showing us this lesson. He was showing us Lazarus coming forth. You could read the rest of it yourself. And we see that he is able. Martha's faith was so like Jesus wants it to be. She would have said, I know, Lord, that when you come, that Lazarus is walking home with us. I know it. I know you could do it right now. But she said, no, I know, Lord. It's going to be later when in the resurrection of the dead when we all rise. No, Christ could do anything now because he is the resurrection. And it taught me such a beautiful lesson as I read all of this, that no matter what happens. Now, she got back her brother, but we can't call back our people. We can't call back the saints. It wouldn't even be fair. They wouldn't want, what call them back to here? Call them back to what? Jesus has the government upon his shoulders. He is the resurrection and the life. Every decision that is made for us in our life and everyone's life, as we trust him, is the best. And as we trust him, we can walk in that peace now. We can be at this peace no whether we live, whether we die. It's such a beautiful, freeing message that Jesus is the resurrection and the life. There is nothing that he cannot do. We don't have to live in the future blessings. Let's live in the blessings that are here and now for us. Let's live in the blessings that God has for us, the things that he shows us, that knowing that he's with us even to the end of the age. When we have that blessed assurance, like Fanny Crosby says, Jesus is mine. He's mine now and forever. He is the resurrection and the life, and he has that power of life in himself and nothing else. And we thank God that we love him and he loves us. I give him all the glory, the honor, and the praise. And that's why even in that Thessalonians, that's why comfort one another with these words. Comfort one another. Saints, please read it again and get the understanding of that we don't have to worry about what's happening because Jesus isn't right here. Why didn't he do this? And you know, look at this, how Lazarus died. He died even though Jesus waited. But he rose him on that day. He can do anything. How sometimes we fret when something goes wrong, or we fret and say, oh, why isn't the Lord doing this? But as we see, the Lord did this for a reason, and he does everything for a reason. When your prayers you think are not answered, remember that all things are working together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose, not ours, because the Lord knows what each of his children need. I thank God for this. It's a freeing message. And I just ask you to pass it along to anybody that will listen, because that'll give they will know the truth, and the truth will set them free. God bless you and give a good day.